Hey, boils and ghouls. Sorry, I'm tired. It's Thursday. That means we get one more video this week. I know it's really early, but I gotta get on the road kind of early today, so I'm gonna try and get through this one as fast as possible. Uh, so I've gone over the essential Halloween special, The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I've gone over the essential Halloween movie, which is Hocus Pocus, and now I'm going to go over the essential recurring Halloween tradition. The essential Halloween tradition being The Simpsons and their annual Treehouse of Horror. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Simpsons has gone really off the rails in like the past decade or so, and I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. But one thing that they still manage to do every year is churn out original material for Halloween. Now, recently it has been hit or miss, but they will occasionally bust out a few gems. It's like every other year ends up being pretty good. Uh, Yesterday in my drunken stupor, I seem to have had the idea that I could somehow, because like after this year they actually have 81 segments currently. I thought that I could somehow narrow it down to 10. I did not succeed with that. What I did manage to do was I narrowed it down to 20 with some honorable mentions. I'd say that's pretty good. Like 20 and some change out of 81, that ain't bad. Uh, I'm going to briefly touch on each segment and just mention the brief plot for it and my favorite part. That way we can get through this smoothly because I could do this for a couple hours. Okay, jumping right in. Number 20 is Dial M for Murder or Pound to return to menu. That's from Treehouse of Horror number 20. Uh, it's a it's a well done episode. It's in black and white, and it relies a lot on Hitchcock parody and tradition. Uh, Basically, Bart tries to trap Lisa and a strangers on a train situation where they are trying to kill each other's teachers. And it's funny because Lisa doesn't seem to know Bart in this one, so that's a different change of pace. Number 19, Treehouse of Horror 12's House of Wax. This one is great because not only are they going for a like a 2001 A Space Odyssey parody, because Matt Groening and the whole writing team, they have a real big heart-on for Stanley Kubrick. No, it's great because of the voice of the house that they get. The Simpsons get a smart house where everything's automated, and it is voiced by Pierce Brosnan, who is homicidally in love with Marge. And it's a well-done episode. It actually made it onto onto an Essentials DVD for Treehouse of Horror. I don't agree with the whole thing, but whatever. Number 18, The Ned Zone from Treehouse of Horror 15. Obviously, it's a parody of the Dead Zone. After Flanders gets nailed in the head with a bowling ball by Homer trying to knock a frisbee off the roof, he he's able to see people's deaths when he touches them, and he finds himself in an extraordinary situation where every time he touches Homer, he sees himself shooting him. When he does everything in his power to not shoot him, he sees that Homer is going to kill everyone by making a mistake at the nuclear plant. So Flanders is left with a really difficult decision. My favorite part of that particular episode is is like Homer finding out that Flanders is envisioning killing him, and it's just his reaction. Just like, you've never killed anyone in your life, and you're going to start with the big dog? I don't know. It's very me. I love that part. Number 17, it's the Grand Pumpkin Millhouse from Treehouse of Horror 19. Anytime that they try a new animation special, or a new animation style, I usually love it, and this is no exception. It's obviously a parody of Charlie Brown, which I talked about a couple days ago. And it's like Milhouse's youthful belief in the character that brings him to life. And unfortunately, after the Grand Pumpkin, who's literally a giant pumpkin with arms and legs, when he discovers what people do to pumpkins on Halloween, he goes on a rampage. And it's damn good. They capture the feel of the Peanuts surprisingly well for a dark animated special. Number 16, Nightmare Cafeteria. I'm going to give you guys a heads up. All of the segments from Treehouse of Horror 5 land on this list because they are fantastic. Treehouse of Horror 5 came about because the censors told the Simpsons team, hey, you do a really good job with these Halloween specials, but can you tone down the violence? And in response, it was like, hey, fuck you guys, we're gonna make it worse. And they did. Nightmare Cafeteria centers on the school staff capturing and eating the children of Springfield Elementary. And honestly, this one's worth it primarily for the ending. The segment itself is a little bit weak. It's still fantastic, but it's a little bit weak compared to the other two. And it's the finale that gets me. It's a musical number. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's a musical number. Number 15. Hitting you guys with a fucking curveball here. Master and Cadaver. I like this one a lot because from season 21. Or, not season, but episode 21 of Treehouse of Horror. Got tongue-tied there. This one's a little bit of a curveball when it comes to The Simpsons. Because they actually tried something new with it. Like, the title's a parody, but they actually tried something new with it. This wasn't a direct parody. Marge and Homer are on their second honeymoon when they come across this... Like, they're on a boat. And they come across this shipwrecked chef from another boat who talks about how everyone on his boat got murdered. And Homer and Marge find themselves in a place where they are trying to figure out basically if this guy's lying to them. And it's actually fairly suspenseful for a 7-minute segment. It's also great because it's the first time that they really introduce the Clockwork Orange Maggie angle that they bring back like 3 times. They got a real hard-on for it. Number 14, Time and Punishment from Treehouse of Horror 5. Told you they were all going to make it. This one is great just for the premise alone. Homer repairs the toaster after his hand gets jammed in it, and he ends up traveling through time with the repaired toaster. And it keeps sending him back to the time of the dinosaurs, where he keeps causing extreme chaos in the modern day. Like at one point, Flanders is the Lord of the Universe. It's one of the great ones. There's some great Peabody and Sherman moments in there. It's worth the watch. Number 13, Treehouse of Horror 6's Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores. This one appeals to me just because of my inner child and my love of giant monsters. All the billboard and advertisement characters in Springfield, they come to life because of an ionic disturbance, and they go on a very Godzilla-esque rampage. It's fantastic. And they have a lovely musical number by Paul Anka towards the end of it. So, definitely a good one. Number 12, Clown Without Pity from Treehouse of Horror 3. This was back when Treehouse of Horror was in their heyday. I would say the first 9 episodes were probably the greatest ones for Treehouse of Horror. That's going to reflect in my list, but there are going to be some curveballs. Again, this one appeals to my love of killer doll characters, like Chucky and Puppet Master, things like that. Homer gets Bart a Krusty doll from a cursed Chinese shop for his birthday, and the doll spends the episode trying to kill Homer. It's a lot of great work for Dan Castellino because he has to carry the episode because he's Homer and Krusty. It's damn good. Number 11, Bad Dream House from Treehouse of Horror number 1. I applaud this one because, well, for one, it's an Amityville horror parody. And 2, in Treehouse of Horror 1, Matt Groening and the writing team, they actually decided that they were going to try and do horror with their Halloween specials. And the episode reflects it. It's very atmospheric, and it's a great premise. They move into a haunted house, and the voices in the walls are telling them to kill each other. It's got a lot of the Simpsons charm, but it's a genuinely creepy episode. Now, before I get into the top 10, you'll notice I keep looking down. That's because I actually took notes today. Yes, I did, because it's a big list. Anyway, before I get into the top 10, I really want to jump into the honorable mentions, just to get those out of the way. I know what you're probably thinking. What about Homer Cubed? Is that going to be in there? No, because I hate Homer Cubed. It's fucking stupid. Do not applaud it just because they did 3D. And also, WizKids did not make the cut on my list. I'm not going to stroke that one's ego anymore. That's the Harry Potter parody. And I'm not going to be a part of it. Okay, the honorable mentions are going to be No Business Like Mo Business. That one's a musical extravaganza actually presented like a stage play. Parody of Sweeney Todd. I Know What You Diddly Italy Did. Mo Business was from Treehouse 20. This one's from Treehouse 10. It's another solid suspense story where the family believes that they may have killed Ned Flanders with a car, and someone is stalking them because of it. This one's a little unorthodox. The Treehouse of Horror 24 intro, like the opening credits, just because they let Guillermo del Toro do whatever he wanted, and it is hands down one of the best Simpsons intros ever. Like that and the Rick and Morty intro that they did. Beautiful. Episode 14's Frankenstein, which features Jerry Lewis playing Dr. Frank's father, or Professor Frank's father, going on a rampage after he's reanimated and stealing organs. It's a lot of fun. Jerry Lewis and Hank Azaria play off of each other really well. The Thing and I from Treehouse of Horror 7, featuring Bart's former conjoined twin Hugo that lives in the attic and desires to be stitched back together with him. It's another genuinely creepy one. A Clockwork Yellow, which is another segment that they do parodying Clockwork Orange. Pretty straightforward. It's also another one that focuses really heavily on Moe, because they started doing that after a while. There would always be one segment that focuses on Moe, for some reason. And finally, The Island of Dr. Hibbert from 2013. Or, not 2013, from episode 13. This one actually would have made the actual list, had the furries not ruined it. I guess they just couldn't help themselves when it came to the animal people. Okay, getting into the actual top 10... Dial Z for Zombies from Treehouse of Horror 3. It's a classic zombie story. Bart uses a book from the library to bring the dead back to life, and then he has to figure out how to put them back. It's worth it just for Homer's encounter with Zombie Flanders alone. Just the one line, oh, he was a zombie? It's fantastic. Number 9, Treehouse of Horror 16's I've Grown a Costume to Your Face. It's always a concept that I've liked of people becoming their Halloween costumes, and they finally did it in episode 16. A witch curses the people of Springfield on Halloween, and everyone becomes their costumes. Half the people want to stay, half the people want to turn back. Mostly the people that want to stay didn't get screwed by their costumes, getting horribly mutilated. Number 8, The Raven from Treehouse of Horror number 1. Matt Groening was actually really nervous about putting that one out, just because it's a straight telling of the Raven. There's very little comedy involved outside of some physicality with Homer. He was worried that it would be really pretentious, but I love it. And the fan base seems to have really taken a shine to it, too. Number 7, Hell to Pay from Treehouse of Horror 9. This one, it's another one that I like because they took some risks. It's a little bit of a parody of Stephen King's Shocker, but they really make it their own. When Snake gets executed by the state, Homer gets his hair in a hair transplant, and it begins affecting him. He starts going after everyone that testified against Snake. And it gets brutal. Moe gets fed through a slushy machine. Sorry about that hangnail. And he's also dead set on killing Bart, which, adds to some decent suspense. Okay, number 6, Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace from Treehouse of Horror 6. It's a Nightmare on Elm Street parody, obviously, with the role of Freddy Krueger being played by groundskeeper Willie. And it's a great episode, and it's very much in tune with Nightmare on Elm Street. Most of the kills in there make sense with it. And, again, this is another one that I love for the ending, just because of how ridiculous it is. And it seems like something I would have written. Not the part where he's like a giant bagpipe spider, but the part where he's getting off the bus. You'll know what I mean if you saw the episode. Number 5, this one's a curveball. Oh, the Places You'll Doe from Treehouse of Horror 24. But I know what you're thinking. Something that recent can't be that good for this list. Ordinarily, I would agree. But a few years ago, they put this one out, and it's a big Dr. Seuss parody that really encompasses a great deal of the violence that used to accompany Treehouse of Horror. And I feel like it was a really good jump back to basics. It's kind of a telling of Cat in the Hat. If Homer were the Cat in the Hat and going on a murderous rampage through the neighborhood, stealing and robbing and just racking up a huge body count. It's a damn good one, and they refer to him as the Fat in the Hat, which I love. Number 4, getting down to the wire here, this actually got really difficult. Number 4, The Devil and Homer Simpson from Treehouse of Horror 4. It's another one where they just nailed it. It's a perfect Treehouse of Horror episode. Homer sells his soul to the devil for a donut, and the devil is played by Ned Flanders. And it's all about the life or death struggle with Homer trying to maintain his mortal soul and stay one step ahead of the devil. There's a wonderful interpretation of hell. It's just kind of wacky, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Number 3, Treehouse of Horror 8's The Ho-Mega Man. I love post-apocalypse survival stories, and this one is... it's a great one. It's based on I Am Legend. Homer's the sole survivor after the French fire a neutron bomb at Springfield, and he just goes looting, and he has a great time until he comes across some of the survivors from town that have become nuclear mutants, and he has to stay one step ahead of them because they will eat his flesh if they catch him. It's another one where the soundtrack's impeccable. Number 2, The Shinning from Treehouse of Horror 5. I told you everybody would make it. The Shinning is Matt Groening's favorite Treehouse of Horror segment, and I can definitely see why. It is a parody of The Shining, just straightforward parody of The Shining. The blood is insane with it. It started the tradition of horrible things happening to groundskeeper Willie in Treehouse of Horror, and it's another one with some good horror elements. Like, there's a scene where Marge is looking at a typewriter to see what Homer's typed, and it says feeling fine, but then lightning strikes, and you can see no TV and no beer make Homer go crazy all over the walls. It's a genuinely creepy scene, and I love it. Now, ordinarily that would be number 1 on the list, but I have one that just kind of takes the cake. And that is Bart Simpson's Dracula from Treehouse of Horror 4. There's too much to say about that one and how great it is. It's a vampire story. Mr. Burns is a vampire. They go to his castle. Bart gets bitten. They have to figure out how to change him back. It's really straightforward, but this one is my personal favorite. Cats are running around. This one is my personal favorite just because of everything that they put into it. I watch it now, and I've seen it hundreds of times, literally hundreds of times. There's still new things in the episode that I hadn't seen before, and that amazes me. Like, the most recent time that I watched it, I saw that Bart had hair like Kiefer Sutherland's from The Lost Boys after he got bitten. It's amazing. The references are out of this fucking world. Like, it came out right around the time of Bram Stoker's Dracula, so Mr. Burns is wearing, like, the kimono with the goofy-ass hair. It's just, oh, it's fantastic, and it's another one with a great ending. That's my top 20, but there is one more that I felt that I couldn't get through with this without mentioning, and it is last year's Halloween of Horror. It's not technically a Treehouse of Horror episode, it's an in-canon Simpsons Halloween episode that they did alongside Treehouse of Horror. And it's one of the best episodes of The Simpsons I've ever seen. And I wouldn't have thought that. Like, an episode from season 27 being one of the best. Lisa gets really fucked up when they go to Halloween Horror Nights at Krusty Land. And, so now she's terrified of Halloween. And Homer is trying to keep a group of burglars at bay on Halloween night because he got them fired from their seasonal job working for Apu at the pop-up Halloween store. And, they're trying to kill him. It's another one that's genuinely suspenseful. It's hilarious. They went all out with the effects for the Krusty Land Horror Nights, too. If you get the chance to watch that one, you definitely should. Damn near all the Treehouse of Horrors are on demand if you have Comcast, so I highly recommend it. You can track them down. There's one per season, starting with season 2. This is my last video before Halloween. There is going to be one more on the day of Halloween, sort of a bonus. I can't tell you what that one is because it's specifically for Halloween, but hopefully you guys love it. Okay, I'll see you guys then.